and welcome to my indie film review of Ambrogio, the First Vampire. Written, directed by, and starring Alex Javo, amongst a load of other things that he does for the film. It's an horror, romance, action film. That's kind of how it's pegged. And the story follows Ambrogio, who is clearly a vampire. It's not it's not one of those films where you're trying to work out if he is. It's quite clear early on. He comes to the US and he acquires a new house by biting the owner, the current owner, who won't sell to him for sentimental reasons. He then establishes himself in this house in this sort of small US town. He gets the notice of a local historian called Sarah, played by Angelina Bozzelli, and she's fascinated with this character already as part of her sort of studies and part of her passion. And when she sees him walking the streets, she's clearly drawn to him, and the pair strike up an unlikely romance, and that becomes the kind of beating heart of the film. That's the main aspect to it. And then we get introduced to the peril, which is in the form of some other baddies who turn up. I'm not going to say who they are because I feel like that's spoiling it, but let's just say they are sort of legendary. And they turn up and things become more dangerous and action-packed, and that's where the film goes. It's quite a short film. It is a feature, but it's only just a feature, sort of just over an hour. And it's a low-budget movie, 25K, I believe, and it wouldn't look it. I think one of the big plus points to this movie I found was, first off, the costume design, which is weird to pick that out first, but it was really good. I love it when the costumes are great, and in this, they're having a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of great costumes being used. The mise en scène was great, as in particular the house that they choose for Ambrogio. It looked like a fantastic layer, even though it is a modern sort of US house. It just had a real richness to it, and it made it feel like, yeah, that's the place he would choose. Because obviously, as a character, he has to resettle every so often. It's just part of the whole kind of screaming mob, pitchfork kind of thing that any vampire has to face. He has to resettle in a new location, and that had a really great start to the movie. It really introduced him well, how he acquires this new place. And people who've watched vampire films are going to be very familiar with this story. So yeah, then when we get the other characters coming in, things are quite melodramatic, I'll be honest. Some of the baddies and the lines they're given and the way they're delivering them, it's very melodramatic. I think they're being a bit too theatrical with that. It feels like it was bordering on a comedy at times, and I don't think that's what was meant. So if you like that sort of feel, if it felt quite like you were watching something lighter, then I think this could be for you. If you like your vampire films very dark and gritty, and that this isn't the right tone, I think. But there's a lot of fun to be had here. One of the big concerns I have about indie horror films, or indie films in general, is when you do get a filmmaker who is doing everything, in particular in the film. They're the star and they're the director. Now, I get why people do that often, and Alex isn't writing this alone. He co-writes with Taz Lake and Johnny Ray Jr., and I'm sure there are lots of people who were there giving feedback, because what was great was that his performance was good. It wasn't like, okay, yep, they're just swarming around you, and you're just riffing on whatever you want, and no one's saying no to you. I think the performance was good. And it had to be, it's the titular character. You can't not deliver that in a really great way. And one of the things that really balanced that was the chemistry with Angelina Bozzelli. I think that romance angle was the strongest part of the film, plus the aesthetics. I think that's a big draw for viewers that want to see this film, why they would want to see that. The horror aspects and the sort of peril side of things, you need that because you need something driving the movie, but I don't think they're that strong. I think it's very well-worn territory. There's nothing there that people haven't seen before. And I don't think the delivery of it was anything remarkable, but it was fine. It sort of put slot A into slot B, and that's fine. We got where we needed to go. But yeah, I think it's one of those films where if you're into that tone, if you like the tone of the movie, there's lots to enjoy there. I think it's an ambitious movie to go for on that type of budget, and they've done really well to get it to the level that they have, and that is largely down to sort of choices that they could make and do. With a much bigger budget, I think you would need something more crafted in terms of the menace side of it, the evil side of it. I think that wasn't quite where it needed to be. But that could also be sometimes it's down to rehearsals and timings and how much they actually have to be able to deliver this. But yeah, some of the action sequences weren't that polished. You're watching these people; it feels very stilted choreography. And again, I'm not going to sort of labour that point and really be harsh on that, because it's very difficult to film those scenes, especially while on a budget and you don't have the resources to have incredible teams of stuntmen doing all these things. I think they did well with what they've got, but there are moments where if you're not on board with the tone, that might jolt you out of the viewing experience. But by and large, I think if you're there for the romance angle and there for that central character and the the love interest, it works brilliantly. It's great to hear this tale as well. Obviously, there's lots of tales about other famous vampires, but actually, I think Ambrogio isn't one that's been talked about a lot. And we learn very early on about the genesis of that character and how it came about in ancient Greece. So yeah, there was a sort of historic angle there which viewers would find interesting. The film is available. Let me check it. I don't think there's any socials for it, but it was available on some different platforms. In America, I think it's on Walmart. We don't have that in the UK. Yeah, Walmart online. But there's Amazon Prime. If you're Prime Video, you should be able to either rent it. I think it's rental and there's a DVD. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. We're going to be talking about this one on the UK Film Club podcast. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and hear what me and Brian chat about it. And there'll be a trailer, I believe, to watch. Yeah, so no excuses not for checking this one out. And stay tuned for more film reviews on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and all that stuff, because it really helps us get more eyes on these indie films. And share this video if you can. It's really appreciated. Take care.